Warm welcome to this series where I am meeting with creators of life-changing techniques, exceptional practitioners and experts in their fields. So this is to allow us to get into all things to do with healing, living life to the full, and challenging the status quo for an amazing life. So my sessions are about connecting to a higher ground. And so it's about elevating the value of our experience in the here and the now. I'm MK from mkelouar.com, coaching and therapy for joy, purpose, and success. So today I want to talk about hypnosis and specifically this amazing technique called Kinetic Shift. And I want to help you understand what Kinetic Shift is, how it works, and what it can do for us. And who would be better placed to answer these questions than the creator of Kinetic Shift himself? And I'm always curious to find out and discover how people started their journey. And my guest's journey is truly fascinating. So I want to share with you the founder of UK Hypnosis Academy, the creator of Kinetic Shift and master of hypnosis, Mr. Karl Smith. Karl, thank you for joining me here today. How are you doing?
Hello, and hello to everybody listening. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much. All's good.
Great. So I've got some questions for you, and if you could shed some light on a few things for us. When people talk about hypnosis, they have some misconceptions, and some of them are about people being easily manipulated or that they are not in control anymore or they're weak-minded. So what would you say to those statements?
So the key thing about in my experience with hypnosis is that lots of people misunderstand hypnosis because of the lack of education and the poor training of hypnotists out there or hypnotherapists. Hypnosis itself is nothing but pure focus and the use of imagination, nothing less. All I need is pure focus and just imagination. That's all I need. So we look back at the time with Franz Anton, most of your viewers would imagine that creepy foe with his hands spread out and with like rays of energy coming out and taking control of people's bodies, when actually it's far, far, far from the truth. It really is far from the truth. And it comes down to education about what hypnosis really is and about how we can do it and about how powerful it is. Because, I can make changes in people's lives in 1 or 2 hours, which would normally take probably 3 to 4 months with counselling. Now, that's not to say that counselling or CBT are bad, but hypnosis is far more efficient and the efficacy rates are far, far higher. It's about us as hypnotists, hypnotherapists, educating more people about that, about what hypnosis does and what it's actually is about and not what people may think it is. With hypnosis, with hypnosis, we can get people to have fun, but that's from consent. When they do that, when people go into stage shows, that's with consent. When people do things with hypnosis, with consent. So at the end of the day, it's about education about that. So there's a vast difference between the stage and the hypnotherapy side.
Okay, excellent. So staying with hypnosis, what's the attraction? What is it that you really, really like about hypnosis, and why would you recommend it to people?
Well, I'm a product of it. So the long story short is that I went through an incident in my life on August 4th, 2006 that was going to change my life. And when it happened, I went to counselling. That made me worse. I went to CBT and it made me suicidal. And a therapist came along and said, "Have you ever tried hypnosis?" And I went, "No, not doing that. No, not going near that." And he said, No, it's not what you think it is. And this is where I get my educational part from about educating people. It's about, he educated me and told me what it really was. And we did it. And at that moment in my life, when he did that session, it changed my life forever. I realized the power of our brain, our body, brains, I should say, and our body and vessel that we live in.
Okay, that's brilliant. I'm going to move on to Kinetic Shift just now. So how is it related to hypnosis?
Kinetic Shift is about beliefs. Hypnosis, in my opinion, is about amplification of states. So it's an amplified state. That's all with hypnosis. All we do is we get pure focus and imagination and amplify a state or a the way that we are, the way that where we are at that moment in time. And the use of hypnosis and kinetic shift. Hypnosis and kinetic shift are two different things. We use hypnosis to amplify the techniques within kinetic shift. Kinetic shift is made of 7 different modules, moving from eye movement to using modalities, confusion techniques, and I'll break them down in a moment. But the idea is that I don't believe that the brain works with words. It works with colors and algorithms. So we utilize those colors and algorithms within Kinetic Shift by using modalities and the body to reconnect, to find out where the trauma is being stored. Because I firmly believe that there's 3 brains we've had 3 brains. We've got the gray matter that everyone looks at, we've got the heart, and then we've got the gut. So my objective is to work with those 3 brains, find out where the trauma is being stored, and then utilizing the brains to give us an idea and an indication of what color and algorithm it really is playing at, not the words and the verbiage that most therapeutics require. We go back to the raw element. We go raw. We go literally down to what is the brain, what are the brains telling us, not what we think it's telling us. So that's roughly where I am with that.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you very much. So you mentioned very briefly there on what you did in your past, what therapies you had, and can you explain what happened really and how you got there, how you got into hypnosis, and how you actually created Kinetic Shift, and what was the journey?
So so I spent 12 years in the British Army. I went to all the places that your holiday representative definitely won't send you to. I left the army and then joined the police and then went into counter-terrorism. I went onto the firearms teams. So for anyone in England, I was on the counter-terrorism firearms teams. For anyone in the US or anywhere else, the equivalent of SWAT teams, for want of a better way. And then I was really enjoying my life. I was really enjoying everything, you know, as a serving police officer, doing really, really fun things, you know, and just enjoying life. But on August 4th, 2006, whilst I was sat at home, a drink driver, a DUI for our friends overseas, a DUI decided to park his car in the front of our next door neighbour's house and into the front of ours. That then led to a series of events where I tried to get the drink driver, the DUI, out of the car, which led to the car collapsing on top of me, dragging me down the road. He couldn't get out of the one-way street, so he decided to put it into first and hit me again, or drive, and then literally just hit me again and take me back home. He damaged my legs, he damaged my back, he damaged my pelvis, fractured cheekbone, you know, damage to my skull, forearms damaged. There was lots of damage. But the thing is that you know, the main crux of it is that physically I was battered and bruised, but mentally I was even worse. My body repaired itself after several weeks, you know, after several months, and actually a little bit longer than that. You know, structurally it fixed itself.
Yes.
But then, you know, you have the rehabilitation period thereafter. And the big thing is that I was on 2 drugs. I was on tramadol and pregabalin. And what they were doing is they were masking the physical pain, but also as well, what they were doing is they were masking the emotional pain. And for any of your listeners or viewers that have ever been on tramadol before, it's an outrageous drug. It just is horrible. It's an absolute horrible drug, tramadol. It just numbs you out. And what we did notice is that it covered up. It helped me during the physical pain, but what it had done is masked up what we was then going to find out was the emotional pain, which was post-trauma or trauma. And what it had done is that it'd been masking it and masking it and masking it. And eventually, as I started to wean off the drugs, it started to rear its ugly head, to which the only way that I could find any way to solve it was to use tramadol, pregabalin, paracetamol, codeine, and Jack Daniels, or anything else of any mixture that I could do to just numb the noise. I was your typical post-trauma, you know, there was sleepless nights, anger swings, there was all types of emotions. 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down, shaking, you know, just nervous. The constant fight, flight, freeze mechanism was continuous. It was just in continuum, you know, just little things would spark it. And, you know, it's very hard to keep me there. So I just stayed on the tramadol and the Jack Daniels whenever I could. Which the job realized I was in a bad way. I went to commit suicide. I really did. I actually drunk a bottle of Jack Daniels and went over to a bridge that isn't too far away from where this office is. Actually, it's like a 300-meter plus drop, and the only thing that stopped me going over the edge was my jacket getting caught on the parapet and not allowing
Oh.
me over. Yeah, to which two hands reached over, pulled me back over,
Oh.
and they pulled me back over, and they got an ambulance and realised who I was, and the job then said, right, something really wrong here. In the police, they realised something was really wrong. They sent me to counselling, and that was really bad. This is no disrespect to your counselling friends or listeners or anything like that, but it goes down to personalities. And this person had obviously had no interest in what was going on. While they said, during a counselling session, they said, we'll do some guided meditation. And while we were doing it, I could hear the keyboard clicking away. So I knew that they weren't interested in what I'm doing. So I just sat there. And one of the comments as well is that and like, this is no disrespect to all the counsellors that are listening, is that one of the comments was, how did it feel to get run over? And it sparked an emotion in me that just didn't leave. It was like, and I won't swear on your channel, but it was,
No.
what the fuck do you think it felt like? And he said, oh, you got lots of anger issues. And I said, I haven't got anger with actually the driver. I've got anger that you can't give me 45 minutes of your time. You're on your laptop, you're tapping away on the computers, you're asking me stupid questions that you're not thinking through. How does it feel to be run over? It's painful. That's what it is. It's traumatic to be under a car. Just reliving it just made me even worse. So and then we ended up on the doorstep of hypnosis, and that's where I was, and that moment in my life where somebody taught me what hypnosis was and hypnotherapy was. I tried it. Something happened. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know more. I went further down the rabbit hole. And as the rabbit hole got deeper, I just got further and deeper down the rabbit hole until eventually I just got lost in the rabbit hole. And then literally just found out that it was a love of my life. It was a passion, and that happened.
You started digging your own rabbit hole then.
yeah, that's right. And that's the way it is. I just fell in love with something that I feel saved my life. So when I look back on August the 4th, 2006, the worst day of my life became the best day of my life. And and it's just one of those things where it's now given me a career where I've taught in 55 countries in Perth. I've traveled the world teaching. I've been on TV. I've done radio. It's turned into a passion for me. It's turned into a life, And for anyone who knows me, it went the day that they do a post-mortem on me, they'll probably find a pocket watch swinging inside.
Yes.
There is a little story to this, because I'm from a place called Great Yarmouth, a fairly big holiday resort. And when I was growing up, and I used to be an usher. Don't tell anyone else. If anyone else listening to this, please do not mention that I was an usher and I used to sit there with a torch showing people to their seats. But anyway, that was I was an usher for one of his shows. So I watched it as a young kid. I was 13, 14 at the time, where you're taking people to their seats, and you're only a young pup with a torch. That's all you're doing. But on the same token, I was a young pup taking people to their seats. And I watched the show and just think, this is all staged. That young mind. There was always something from when I was 13, 14 of watching these shows and meeting Ken and seeing Ken and doing all these things and talking to Ken after, that there was an element of intrigue. Anyone who believes in the universe or anything like that, this triggered when I was 13, 14 years old. But then when it came to that police officer showing me some hypnosis that day, I still had that Ken Webster thing going through my head. But when he actually educated me, and that's why I talk about education, that's when I went, okay, well, let's have a look at it. So when I look at my life, hypnosis was in the background. It was something that was in my head that I really wanted to get. And what the accident did do is open up that little 13-year-old boy that used to be an usher selling ice creams and whisking people off to their chairs. So yeah, so in some strange way, I've come round.
That's right. That's amazing. It's like the calling, really, and you needed trauma to go back to it. So in terms of Kinetic Shift, how did you come about creating it, and how was it born?
Okay, so the first thing that I realized that when I was going through therapy is that your brain does not work in words; it works in colors and algorithms. So we teach the colors and the algorithms words. So sometimes we get nonverbal communications, or we can't get communications up. We can't talk properly, and we can't say things. We can't say things how we really want them. That's why we get those senses of
Mm,
we something, we can't do it, we can't say it. So that was one thing that I couldn't get. I couldn't do. The first part there is that I wanted to work with the colors and algorithms. The second
yes.
part is about working with the left and the right hemisphere, which is the confusion element of kinetic shift. And the thing is that with scientific studies, on a Saturday morning, somebody could produce a scientific study, and by lunchtime, somebody's dismissed it already. So I haven't got enough time for that because I'm too busy fixing people while people are fighting about words and verbs. So the key thing is that our brain is divided into two elements. It's got a left side, a logical side, and a right side, which is emotive. And when they're out of sync, that's when we start doing things wrong. So our emotive brain can overtake everything and overtake our logical brain. My job is to work with both sides to get equilibrium, to get them to work together, to get them balanced out, to clear out some of the junk. So what we do is
Yes.
we use the colors and the algorithms, the left and the right hemisphere, and some other techniques like bilateral stimulation. So, there's a product out there called EMDR, eye movement desensitization resolution. But there's the eye movement desensitization side of things as well. So we use not EMDR, but we use bilateral stimulation as well
Ah,
to do that, which is a simplified format of EMDR, because it's the same process with anything really, is that lots of things are overcomplicated to sell more products. If you show people how easy it is to change people's life with simplicity, you can't sell that stuff. Colors and algorithms, using left and right hemispheres, using lots of powerful imagination, and then you've got a tool that basically just changes lives. And it's not a silver bullet. It's no such thing as a silver bullet, and it's
no.
not new. All it is lots of different great ideas that are bunged into an idea. Because what lots of therapies don't do is spike imaginations. And what they don't do is spike the emotion. Doesn't mean that we regress the person back. What it means is that we use that emotion that they're going through and bring it up to the surface, then hit it on the head. And this is why when we do counseling and CBT, they tend to take a lot of time trying to find out what they think is going on. Because any good therapist will know that the issue that the client walks in with is not actually the real issue that's the problem. The issue is never the issue. So when you start to know that as a therapist, you'll start to realize that when a client comes in and says, I've got anxiety, it's got nothing to do with anxiety. When a client comes in and says they've got depression, it's got nothing to do with depression. When somebody comes in and says, I want to quit smoking, it's got nothing to do with smoking. So when you start to recognize that and you start to learn that, that's when your therapy will start to thrive, because you don't work with the thing that they walk in with. So the issue is never the issue. The key thing about it is that with Kinetic Shift, I predominantly use it with post-trauma. That was why it was designed. I designed it around how I was working with post-trauma,
Yes.
and using what I call the emotional detox. So what we do is we do the emotional detox. We do a big clear out first. And then what we do is we wait for something to pop up that is really the problem. And then what we do then is we hit it on the head from there. Because not a lot of therapists do. They don't deal with the actual emotion that's causing the issue. They chase the anxiety, they chase the depression, they chase all of the rubbish that they're telling him, but they're not actually dealing with the real issue at hand. And that's one of the
Yes.
big things. So yeah, so it came about, and the reason the way that I use it, I can use it in any setting, but as a bit part player to a bigger process. So it's there for therapists to use whatever they want on top of it as well. It's there, it complements, as the way I look at it.
Oh, that's great. And it really flows into my next question, which is how can it be used? How can Kinetic Shift be used alongside other therapies? You mentioned EMDR, obviously, it's using a bit of that. And you also mentioned CBT, but in a different context. How does it work with other techniques and other therapies?
I think the key thing, the question here is about therapists. A lot of therapists are very inactive in a session. And you know me, I'm active in a session. What do I mean by inactive? They sit there looking at their notepad, not really listening to the client or watching the client. They are the script. They are telling, your client will tell you and give you everything verbally and physically. And that's where a lot of therapists go wrong. And the key thing is that if you are an inactive therapist, you're ineffective. You are ineffective. If you're sitting there looking at your notepad, doing the nodding dog thing and just, yeah, you're not really taking in, you're not there. Whereas an active therapist, in my opinion, is somebody that engages, that's watching, that's listening, and things that happen on the lips, the talks on the lip, the shoulders coming up, shoulders dropping down, hands starting to move around, twist around, all of those little things there that you should be honing in on and then working with. So if you were a counselor, there is nothing stopping you then, because what you've done is in KS, and you know this, is what's called spiking the emotion. So when we've spiked that emotion up into the air, as a counselor, you see the what we call the indicators, what we're looking for, the indicators of something happening. You can use Kinetic Shift with anything that you're utilizing. That's the key thing. My job is to teach people to be an active therapist, not an inactive therapist.
Oh, that's really good.
Sitting there. That's the way I look at it. So it can be, I've got doctors, surgeons, I've got, people from around the globe that just do that. They do all kinds of things, Reiki healers. I've got people that do yoga and all that lot. They just use it when they're doing stuff. Something comes up, somebody has a panic attack or releases emotion, breathing techniques. When we're teaching breathing, we use it during that as well, using any type of breathing or anything like that. If any emotions popped up, that's when Kinetic can be used, but it's not the silver bullet.
No, that's great. Okay, so you mentioned trauma, and how long would it take? I know it's not a fair question, but how long would it take roughly to help someone with PTSD, for example, and using Kinetic Shift and hypnosis?
Right. So the key thing about this is that if I go through my metaphor of what post-trauma is to me, then your listeners will understand roughly where I'm coming with this. Post-trauma is about an accumulation of stress factors, nothing more, nothing less. You can't get post-trauma from one incident. There has to be a series of events that happen prior to that event. So that's why we say, so this can go all the way from childhood all the way to where we are now. And if you imagine a pressure cooker, the best way for me to explain this is like your body's like a big pressure cooker, and sitting at the bottom of it is fight, flight, freeze. They're all sat at the bottom of your pressure cooker. During life isn't pleasant. There is no Cinderella, there are no dwarfs, and there are no elves at the bottom of your bed. So we've all been taught that, but unfortunately life is shite sometimes. That's what it is. We just have to take it on the chin that life isn't pleasant sometimes. My objective with post-trauma is to relieve the pressure in the vessel. That the question of how long can it take is dependent on the individual. So I could get somebody down and reduce it down by half. I could get somebody down to 3/4. I could get somebody all the way down to the bottom, or I might not get anything at all. However, the point being is allowing a little bit of air at the top of that pressure cooker just to give us some clarity. So the idea is that when I'm doing any of my techniques or anything like that, I give my clients this metaphor so we understand that their pressure cooker's coming down. And the idea is giving that little bit of clarity, that little bit of ease of space and time, just so they can start doing other things that will start to lower the pressure even further. So in answer to your question, I've had massive results in one session, but I wouldn't say it's all over after one session. I don't believe in complex. So you've got complex post-traumatic stress disorder. You've got CHPTSD, which seems to be the new one coming out, which is childhood complex post-traumatic stress disorder. What a cracking label that one is. And the key thing is, yeah, there is, and they're all just made up. I personally think, from my personal opinion of somebody who's experienced it, that post-trauma is nothing but anxiety on steroids. When you look at it like that, it reframes it for the client. And they go, yeah, I get that. All you've got is anxiety that's on a mission. It is on steroids. And they go, all right, and so how do we deal with it? Well, we do this and this. We reduce the pressure cooker, bring it all the way down. And then what we do then is we give you a bit more clarity, a little bit more space, so you can go away and go do what you need to do in life, come back in a couple of weeks and see where you are. It's a big journey. All you're doing is just starting a new journey. The same as when I had my car accident. All somebody did was give me a bit of clarity and a little bit of light. And I went, hang on a minute. this can be done. I am not a victim. I don't have to live like this for the rest of my life. Because when you are in the dark depths of alcohol and drug abuse and suicidal thoughts, there is no escape. But when I was given the escape chute, then I knew where I was. When somebody relieved that pressure, it gave me the clarity and the light that I needed to get out there and do something special. Till eventually, you know, I'm where I am now. So when I'm doing my post-trauma sessions, it is, you know, that's the way I explain it to all my guys and girls, and it works a treat for them.
Okay, and can you use a Kinetic Shift with kids as well?
Yes, with great effect. They've got, like I said at the very beginning, Hypnosis and Kinetic Shift use pure imagination and focus. And kids have got tremendous amounts of that. So yes, you can use it with kids. And I use it all the time.
Thank you, Karl. If somebody wants to become a Kinetic Shift practitioner, so can you tell us what the route is to become a practitioner?
Yeah, so the key thing is that you don't need any experience in the therapy world. We treat it as that you've obviously done the course as well, that we start from the fundamental basics and then build people up. So the course is designed for everybody that's anybody that's got any interest in therapy, to those that are advanced or whatever in therapy. You know, they've done 1,001 course and they want to have a look at something else. And the key thing about it is that, you know, I think the key thing is for me is as long as people are safe and ethical, it's an amazing tool, a lovely tool for people to go learn and help other people and themselves in their own life to learn about how powerful this is. So, you know, it is a powerful tool in itself, in its own right. You know, just learning about hypnosis, amplification of states, all that type of stuff is really good fun. So, you know, for yourself, you're an experienced therapist. You went and did the practitioner's course, but you probably didn't, you know, and I've got somebody that bought it just after you that had no experience whatsoever and fell in love with hypnosis. So
I've got one last question for you, and it's really just to find out about your plans in the future, what you've got lined up.
So like I'm here's a little business tip for people. A lot of therapists don't focus enough on their business. So I see myself as a business person first, a marketeer second, and a therapist third. And you know, you have to develop your business, you have to have marketing right, and then you can worry about your therapy, because you can be the best therapist in the world, but if you don't tell anyone or you haven't got any money to do it, then guess what? You ain't doing anything. So the key thing is about, I like to work with people in their business, and I like to show people how to develop their business. And that's something I'm doing at the moment. So that's one big thing I'm doing. I'm supporting people with their business and helping them along. The other thing is how to get to like 6 figures and close to 7 figures, that type of stuff. That's where I am. And I've got people that mentor me that get me up to 7 figures. But the other thing as well is that I started another business because I realized that hypnosis is hard to sell, can be a hard sell. We started another company called the Mental Welfare Coach. And I'm going to be brutally honest. It's the same as what we do in the Hypnosis Academy. But on the same token, we just rebranded it, reflavored it for corporate. And I'm putting all my focus into that at the moment. So I'm doing the corporate hypnosis, not hypnosis training, mental health training in, you know, certain places like the Department of Industry and Trade, Foreign Commonwealth Office, the NHS. We've been delivering to a trust, helping them. Also big companies around the globe, really. So a lot of my effort and time is being focused into that, because when you are a hypnotist, a lot of people just focus on just the hypnosis business, when actually there is a big wide world out there that wants it, but they just don't want it in hypnosis. So yeah, so there's another big thing that I've been working on. And the other fun thing as well is that I like photography, and I've got a full-blown studio here, and I spin the cameras around, but it's about 6-7 cameras, lights set up, all of the type of stuff here. And the one thing I am doing now is I'm building therapists' online courses. Like I've got a professional studio, I've got a whole complete setup here. And yeah, you know, so when people want to, get their story, their gift out there, we're offering them to take them out there. So, you know, I've started as just a basic therapist, if you, for want of a better word, develop my business, learn all about the different aspects of my business, you know, become fairly good at it, and just develop more businesses out of that one business. So there we go. So yeah, so I've always got something going on.
Oh, great journey.
Good. Really good. Yeah,
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 fantastic journey and great project. Sounds absolutely amazing, really. So we're looking forward to hearing more about that.
yeah.
And that's all I've got for you today, really. I know you're very, very busy, so I really thank you for taking the time to come and speak to me today.
You are
And
more than welcome.
oh, thank you. And I hope we can do this again sometime. Okay, guys, leave your comment below and let us know if you have ever tried Kinetic Shift or even hypnosis, and let us know what happened. If you're interested and if you've got more questions, just ask them in the comment section below, and subscribe to my channel, please, if you want to see more videos like this. I specialize in many therapies to help people with their issues, trauma, and blockers in life. And don't forget to subscribe, click on the bell. Don't forget to turn on the notifications. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.